are live and unmuted.
Okay, great. Good evening. This is the November Executive Committee meeting for Manhattan Community Board 2. I'm the chair, Valerie Della Rosa. Sitting around the table, I have the committee chairs and two past chairs and a past chair that is a committee chair. Great. Yeah, and online, we also have some of our executive committee members and other board members. So with that, approval of the October 2025 executive committee minutes. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All right. I'm going to move the chair's report. I'd like to get through the calendars. That's all right with everyone. Did you want to do the district manager's report? I'm going to do my report before.
I follow you.
Okay, great. Okay, so I think we should just get to the calendars right away. Yeah, does that sound good?
Yeah.
So we have the draft December calendar. So Janine, you had brought up something about
With traffic and transportation is having a meeting Monday, the 24th after full board, and we'll need to meet to basically have a business session to address, write a resolution on Canal Street so we can bring it to full board in December. So perhaps we could do, I mean, I'm open to the evenings. Maybe we do another, I'm not sure what's on the Parks Committee agenda, but maybe we could go before Parks or before land use.
okay, so like maybe this is like an hour.
An hour and a half. Like, I feel like meetings are very efficient when we have a hard stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, you prepare the materials ahead of time.
People
Yeah.
actually edit themselves.
Okay, so this would require,
One of the committees, I'm just, probably not outdoor dining because that's a long night, probably not SLA because those are long nights.
but also SLA is not in this room.
Oh, okay.
But I also don't know, but yeah, it's,
Overlap.
I don't think you have any, do you have someone on your committee that overlaps? I don't,
No,
yeah.
I'm actually realizing like neither of those dates
Oh,
are
okay.
good for me.
You
So I'm
okay.
just like,
Okay,
the fourth could work. I mean, December 4th, I'm just looking at like, what are our options for,
Mhm.
I think the first is too early after things,
mhm.
we need a little time to.
Even the, yeah, even the second and the fourth, that is not a lot of time.
I mean, maybe we could, is the landmarks, I mean, I know there's no committee. Why don't we work on this offline on the 11th, I think could work.
Okay,
Could I be clear on that? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Chanel has approached me about, I don't think he's online, so I'll speak. He already approached us today to say that there are already several applications for December, one of which is going to be long. And so even though it's very hard to fit a second meeting in, I suspect he'll be asking for that. And if not, he may start early like he sometimes
And
does.
how early does he normally start?
He starts, well, yesterday he started, 6? And oftentimes he starts at 5:30.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so I guess my first choice would be starting on maybe the 4th then.
okay.
Well, could I suggest, I mean, Janine, would it be possible to maybe start at 5:30 on the 10th, right before land use?
We could, except I have something personal that night, so.
Oh,
I can't.
okay. All right.
I know, I was like, I'm offering dates that don't work for me. But yes, that could.
So what did you want?
The 4th or the 11th, at like 5 to 6:30 or 5:30 to 7. I guess if it's the 4th, we can just start at 6:30, right? Because
Yes.
so that probably would be best because that way we can get there. 5 o'clock is a tough start for people.
Okay, so we'll solidify that, but it's one of those two dates. And then it then sounds like a definite second meeting is going to be needed for landmarks. I don't think Chenault's on, but he did send a note, which I don't see anything else but the 15th mark. And I know that's the second night of Hanukkah.
It's the end of, sorry.
Or-
It's the end of the first night and the beginning of the second night
Oh.
at sundown. I'm not enough of an observer to know whether that's a problem.
I don't know, what does this group think?
It's not a religious holiday, so it's not like it's not like Passover or
It's
something.
not like,
It's all about if people have parties to go to.
No. Okay, then I guess that seems to be the only place that it works. And I just want to apologize to Brian because yesterday there were two meetings scheduled. We had landmarks and outdoor dining scheduled yesterday, outdoor dining, which has been on the calendar for 12 months, over 12 months. But really want just to be cognizant of when you're proposing a date that's going to overlap, that we either loop in the committee member, and I should have flagged this, but there was just no other way. It just was very last minute. And I apologize for putting you in that position, Brian, but we just shouldn't propose dates where the committee members overlap. It just is not. Yeah, it's just not. Yeah. And with quorum, like, it also puts that at jeopardy as there's many things going on. So anyways, so there's that. Okay, so any other dates on here? I know schools isn't meeting, traffic and transportation is going to be moving up. And then for cannabis, for cannabis, I know we had to remove it for the holiday party. Do you know if we expect, or Mar, if you're on, if we expect any?
We don't have any applications right now. If we don't get
Okay.
any by the end of the week, we won't meet in December.
Okay, great. So I guess we'll cross that when we get there, right? Thanks so much. Okay, anything else on the December calendar? So if we could, maybe Mark, if you could tell us when we would need to get our January, when does the January calendar go out, just so this group knows, and then we can move on
I
to.
believe it is the 22nd, which is a Monday, because,
Oh, it's right there. It's on there.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so that just means, so that would need to go out. Okay. And then would it follow the regular cadence of then going out again on?
Usually it's the Friday after full board, or
Well, right, but I'm saying, like, so the week of the 29th through New Year's, so would it go out the 2nd then? Would it go out on Friday, January 2nd? I'm just trying to get the cadence for, it's
I'm
gonna
not sure
go,
what you're asking, I'm sorry.
when does, the week of the 29th, when does the calendar e-blast go out?
Oh, ordinarily it would be the 2nd, and we do have meetings
The next week.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Yeah.
the week after, so it would make sense to do it then. It would be lost in the shuffle, so maybe it would make sense. It would not be the first calendar of January, it
Right.
would just be an update. So maybe you want to send it out on the 30th before it gets lost in.
Okay.
I would send it out
Okay,
either the 29th or 30th.
okay, that's what I
depending
wanna
on-
know.
On updates, does that make
Okay.
sense?
Mhm. Okay, great. Thanks so much. Anything else on December? Okay. Can we look at 2026 calendars quickly?
I have a question.
Yeah. Katie?
Yeah, what's the final day for the holiday party? I've heard,
December 8th,
perfect, that's
Monday,
fine.
December 8th.
Okay,
So 2026, we put in the primary day. There's no meeting scheduled on that day. Trying to think what else we caught, but I think we got National Night Out too.
Yes.
Woo, yeah. So that's,
So can I just,
Yeah.
I know I went through with you to move SLA from the 1st and 3rd to the 8th and 10th. Can I put a temporary hold on the 1st?
okay. I mean, what month?
Tuesday, September after
Oh, my
Labor
goodness.
Day.
Wow. Yeah, that's really planning.
Okay, so you want to put a hold on what day?
So just let me poll my committee for Tuesday, the 1st. We've got SLA 1 on the 8th, which is the day after Labor Day. Maybe if people were around, maybe we'll move it to the 1st
And then
and keep the 10th as SLA 2.
is way ahead of everybody.
Okay.
Okay? Not that anybody knows what they're doing in September, but at least if I poll, maybe then there's a commitment made.
Okay, great. Hi. Okay, great. Hi, Mar. Anything else on 2026?
I'll have to find a new date for February 24th, because I have to do that.
Okay. Schedule. September is kind of weird.
I mean, honestly, I could do it on the, I could do it on the 25th.
Okay.
I guess you can't do it on Christmas. So, yeah, the 25th could work.
Yeah, so January and February, we're gonna run into we'll have a landmarks issue for the second meeting because of Martin Luther King Day in January and President's Day in February. Ash Wednesday's really early. Yeah, I think that's, I forget why. So I think this is really important. So if you'll notice, if you look at July, the default was not having meetings. So if you want to have a meeting, you got to request a date.
Got it.
So, and I think it's that way in August as well. It's not that we don't mind, but also I want to encourage people taking time off so we don't get burnt out. Yeah. So, and then on, through June. Except I don't have traffic and transportation in June, but that's because I couldn't find a date. I didn't want to add something in, so.
In
Yeah.
August, because it's so far ahead,
Yeah,
it always seems that doing the executive, since it's a little full board, gets rushed. You might want to consider doing it on the Thursday since it's so.
how does this group feel about what Carter's proposing?
I have no idea what I'm doing in August. So,
But that's kind of what I mean, that if Thursday is later in the week,
Yeah.
which means that people are able to
yeah,
accomplish.
last year it was the week I took my son to college, so it was the whole week, so it doesn't matter.
I think that's kind of what I mean, is
Yeah,
So,
people are writing resos or getting stuff together.
so would we like to, is everyone okay moving exec to the 20th of August, the Thursday?
Yes.
Okay.
no opposition.
Okay.
Let me check my calendar.
Let's see that far ahead.
All right.
Very impressive, Valerie. That's all right up.
Well, I mean, Mark said this to me with a lot of lead time. Just to be very, very clear, so just because of where the October was about the budget items, it just, even though so anyways, thank you, Mark, for your partnership in that. I appreciate it. Okay, so that seems relatively, obviously, I know it's a lot to think a year ahead, but I just really wanted to emphasize the July as the default. If you don't have application driven, that the default is you're not meeting, but you certainly can. I just
And August, right?
Huh?
And
And
August.
August, yeah, but also to let committees members know and all that stuff. So, okay, so that's that. And then, all right, for the chair's report, we had a very successful 35th annual NYU CB2 Children's Halloween Parade. Thank you to Mark, Florence, and I would thank Eva, but she was not here, but she's always been a force on the popcorn machine with the team. And that was really fun. It was very windy and it was very different this year. I don't know if everyone got to walk by it or not, but we did it on West 3rd. So they blocked off all of West 3rd between LaGuardia Place and Mercer. And so there was a lot of space.
There was
Yeah, it was a lot of space. It was a very, very windy day, and it was all around a success. The other grand marshals besides myself were the 3 co-leaders of the Village Interagency Task Force, Vanessa Warren, Brian Maloney, and Scott Hobbs, right? Scott. And then Carlos Safra, who is Vice President of Buildings for NYU, was also there. And Judy Paul, right? From the Washington Square Hotel, which we know has been sold.
I didn't see her.
So that was really great, really fun time, and it was fun to serve popcorn for a little bit with Mark and Florence. And what else to discuss? We have the joint meeting next week on Monday. So let me just share that flyer so you guys can see it. And if you think it's, this is my first time planning with two other boards, a meeting as chair. So we've learned a lot in the process, and also with 3 DMs and 3 very strong DMs. So I know Monday's going to be a success. If you're around, please do let me share the information so you will know what I'm talking about and where to go. Yeah.
It's at MS 131, which is very close to Chinatown by the Manhattan Bridge and on Hester Street. And it's a very large auditorium. You've probably been to, if you've been to large public meetings downtown, you may have been to that space. And we're gonna have DOT, it starts at 6:30 now, right? Or 6, starting at 6.
Yeah.
She's pulling up the flyer, starting at 6. We're gonna start with a presentation from DOT, and they're gonna give an overview of what they're proposing for Canal Street. They've divided into 5 parts, and then we're gonna take questions. DOT is getting translators. We do have people doing outreach into Chinatown, so hopefully we'll get people from the local Chinatown community coming to talk either online or in person. And we're going to have the whole DOT team. I'm not sure how late they're going to be staying, but
Be translators,
and yeah,
flyers are being translated. And yeah, hats off to Janine and for really getting this into shape across all the different players. So, and yeah, it's going back to the format that we originally requested in the first place. So that's exciting. Yeah, and then there's a link to the presentation online, and yeah, that's the story there. And I think I think that's pretty much it for my chair's report. So I'll turn it over to Mark.
Okay, thanks. So you just heard about the Canal Street redesign presentation, nothing more to add there. I want to add that thank you to NYU, who has renewed our lease on that meeting space at least through May. And
In the hall.
the Gould Welcome Center, sorry for my back. We have that at least through May, and they're asking for the rest of the year. By the way, we also have the hospital at least through March.
Right.
That's as far as they can
Right.
go out. So our alternate sites are lining up, fingers crossed, continuously. Okay, I previously reported about the borough president's trainings, including some of them that were mandatory. They are expected to be online, and I think it's, on your honor system attestation that you completed them. But I think they're waiting for Andrew Chang to come back, who's been away longer than I expected. I thought it was just a vacation, but I fear it might be something more serious. So fingers crossed and thoughts for him. At Borough Service Cabinet, I think I shared this with some of the folks. The DOT has presented its revised street design manual, and it's available online. It has a new section on activations. We were thinking of you, Will, which has a broader reach than the prior programming section. It might be worth taking a look. It has sections on ADA, but upon inquiry, it doesn't include outdoor dining as ADA implications. We already talked about the holiday party. The board package will be prepared tomorrow, Wednesday, both with resolutions and reports. There are a number of meetings that are going on in the evening tomorrow, including the precinct community council, because nobody wants to do it on the eve of Thanksgiving. So it would be great if we could get those resolutions and reports in during daylight hours. Let's see, December calendar, we already talked about. The Village Interagency Task Force continues to meet. We're grateful to the DA's office and especially Peter Say for including CB2 prominently. Susanna is part of it. They invited me to come along. While the task force is showing results, the DA's office also presents at the task force, and it's becoming clear that the chronically vulnerable individuals who are no longer in the park or on the street, oftentimes it's because they missed a court appointment and then they are now incarcerated pending some other proceeding. So it's a little bit sad that should be the case. What else was I going to say about that? Okay. And then with respect to food insecurity, especially this time of year, is something that people think about. We have on our website a list of resources for folks, and many thanks to Janine for suggesting this to us, that in addition to the resources where people who are vulnerable can go and get food, we've added a column for folks who can donate, either money or in kind. And I'm soliciting as best I can updates to those, because there's a lot of conflicting information out there about, for example, when a soup kitchen meets or when a pantry is available. I had some good responses, and I'm sorry to say, I'm happy to say that there are some in our district, but there aren't that many. So it would be important for us to continue to try to promote those that are actually doing this. And unless there are questions, that's my report.
Yeah, I just want to remind people that during COVID, PS 130 in our community, in Community Board 2, had lines around the block for free meals. So people think it's a fairly affluent community. There are food insecure people everywhere who people would line up in dense lines at the height of COVID to get food.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. And then I forgot to mention that we did receive a proclamation from Senator Kavanaugh for the Children's Halloween Parade. And it says, mentioning Artie, and also it has something really funny where it says in Greenwich Village.
Oh, that's cute.
So Senator Kavanaugh was there along with Assembly Member and incoming or Council Member-elect Harvey Epstein also was there and said some remarks. I'm just going to move this back so I don't break it. I didn't mention it during my report. And then as the follow-up from last month, I'll send these over email, but these are the guidelines for recording votes that we went over in writing. I'm a paper person, but I will also send via email. So those are right. It's this last pile here. So if you don't, yeah. So it's just what we discussed last time. So I forgot to pass that out, but I'll also send it via email. Okay, so now we will go to the standing committee report. I got that. And education. So let me just pull up on my screen, share my slides.
We met in October. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you met in October, yeah.
Yeah, we met in October. We had 75 Morton, an update from 75 Morton parent leaders at their school. And they gave a slide presentation to us, highlighting their diversity, their rigorous academics, dedication to social and emotional learning, and so forth. The school is having some enrollment challenges, so because they lost their performing arts program, and they asked the committee if we could write a resolution in support of it, restoring it to attract.
Restoring the program.
Yeah.
And why was it, or is that in the resolution? I should read
It's in
it.
the resolution.
Okay, great.
Is it money?
Was it federal funding that went away or? No, okay.
I don't
no.
think so. I mean, enrollment is down, so I think they lost their teacher over
Oh,
the fact that enrollment is down.
okay. So
You're basically reimbursed on a per student basis. And so the bigger the school is, the more special teachers you can hire. And by special, they're not extras, they're basic things like science and art and PE and all this kind of stuff that you spread across. And unfortunately, the way the numbers work, it's sometimes hard to staff all these things in a school without extra funding.
Okay, I'm just putting up your calendar for November. I'm gonna
Oh,
grab something
okay.
from my bag. Excuse me.
Yeah, and I just also want to point out that 75 Morton is our zone school on the west side. So it's important that we remember that they're there and hopefully they get this funding. Tomorrow night is our November meeting. We're having Michael Markowitz come and present on 529 plans and FAFSA. And then an update from Emily Holmstrom on Literacy Academy Collective.
And so you have one resolution for.
Just
November.
one, yeah,
Okay, great.
that's it. I don't know if I'm gonna have one tomorrow, but we'll see with the presentation.
Okay, for November full board or, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay.
We'll see.
Okay, I mean, you can always introduce it as new business, right? If it plans to make the packet, right? Okay, but I think, yeah, I'm sure they'll, if there's a version that goes out Thursday morning, I'm sure we could put it in there, so.
Okay,
But that's a lot to ask
yeah,
of you, so there's no pressure. So if you don't need to vote on it in November,
okay, understood. And there is no meeting in December for schools.
right, okay. Great. Any questions, comments from the other committee chairs? Okay, great. Cannabis.
We had we had one application and for a dispensary on West Street. We recommended denial. And the other thing we did was review the proposed regulations around cannabis showcase events. So we have some recommendations for that are going into a resolution, and also voted to create a letter so that it would be easier for the regulatory people who receive these official comments, public comments, to read, like a bullet point situation. So that'll be attached to the resolution. We're doing both.
So two resolutions?
Two resolutions with an addendum, I guess we would call it.
And you're gonna add something at the meeting?
We're gonna package the points made in the resolution as a bullet point list to submit
Oh, okay.
to regulations at ocm.ny.gov. And the resolution will be for us, and we will send to the usual suspects.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
And then Human Services has a report, and there's no report this evening, but a report that will be in the packet. So I'm going by the calendar.
Okay.
So,
We've already talked about this
Yeah.
meeting, but I hope people come. But today was a in-person meeting of all the task force members looking at the West Side Highway from Battery Park up to 59th Street with New York State DOT. And I have to say, it was a very good meeting. We were divided into groups based on what areas we represented. And we were given a Lego set of basically with the current setup for, we had Morton Street. So and it was proportionate to the width of the street in terms of sidewalks, median.
this is not for public.
There's 5 lanes going north, there's 3 lanes going south, the bike lane and everything. And we came up with different horizontal things of suggestions. And so it was actually a lot of times you just put a dot on things. And then there were 4 or 5 groups and we presented, and that was about 2 hours. There will be a meeting in January with a similar output, a similar process. I don't know how they'll do it they'll have to buy a lot more Legos. But it was actually very effective in terms of soliciting feedback. So stay tuned, and
Will they be coming to you for a meeting?
they're going to come. They're going to have a public meeting of their own. It won't be a CB2 meeting, but it'll be a public meeting sometime in January. There's no date yet. And basically doing something similar to that. And it's interesting because they are still waiting on the data on the West Side Highway post congestion pricing. So we keep asking about that, which, because I would like to see Canal Street post congestion pricing, but if they don't have it on the highway, they probably don't have it on Canal Street either.
Is there any discussion of like, was resiliency one of the topics covered or?
The resiliency is always covered in terms of that. And so, we talked about, the center median and this and bump outs for pedestrians. And, Jeffrey LaFrancois really did a good job of making sure all these are permeable surfaces. So if we're going to build anything.
Yeah.
And right now, and they're going to redo the whole highway whenever this happens. It'll probably be a decade from now. But the center median has plantings, but there's no water source. So there's all these like basic things. You will add a water source and then, so there were lots of ideas. But yes, resiliency is absolutely on the list.
Great. Wonderful. Really great update. So next, we're going to move on to street activities.
Not much of an update from our side, regular month. We're starting to get smaller number of applications as we go into the winter season. But all in all, pretty standard, not much to call out on our side. We did invite DSNY to come give us an update for our December meeting. We're not sure if that's going to be possible. So if that's not possible, then we're going to ask them to come in January. It's been a bit since we've heard from them. And so it will be an update on composting, containerization, et cetera. That's it.
Really wonderful. Thanks so much for that. So next we will go to, and your next meeting is on December 1st.
Yes.
Parks and Waterfront, Rich could not join us this evening last minute, so we do not have a report. They did not meet this month. They are scheduled to meet on Wednesday, December 3rd, and these are just placeholder agenda items until we get that agenda. SLA 1 and 2.
I just have a question. Can we introduce the people who are here in the back? And then I know we're being videotaped.
Sure.
Which you're obviously allowed to do, but I'd love to just know who everyone is.
Oh, sure. Could you please,
sure.
It's okay. You can just,
That's fine.
I'm sorry, you can say your name if you'd like.
Yeah, my name is Sharon Nobles, Quest International. I'm a designer and an artist.
Wonderful. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here. Hi.
Hi, Jacob Solig, village resident, and here just to observe and to, follow the
Great.
process.
Thanks so much, Janine, for that. It's such a great idea. Hi.
Hi, Sam Solig, also a village resident, here to see what the meeting's like.
Okay, great. Welcome. And back here?
I'm Richard. I live along Canal Street. I'm mostly just curious. I feel like I don't know that much about how these things work.
Great. And make sure you sign in. Also sign up for the CB2 newsletter so you can know when our meetings are. And as you know, we're talking about our agenda. Janine, thanks so much for that idea. Thanks. Welcome.
Okay, SLA, we actually had a light month especially compared to last month, which was a lot. So I think it was an equal split. Both committees had 13 applications on the agenda. There will be 3 resolutions, SLA 1, 4 resolutions for SLA 2. The rest withdraws and layovers. And I think that's it.
Wonderful. All right, so let me go back to here, and you're meeting on December 2nd and December 4th, correct?
Yep.
Great. Land use and housing. Eugene? Hi, I'm gonna let me take off the slideshow so that we can see you.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I'll have Katie give the report for the November meeting.
Sure. Good evening. We met on Wednesday, November 12th. And first we had a presentation by Village Preservation, particularly Executive Director Andrew Berman, on their recently released report on the Soho NoHo Chinatown rezoning. It was an hour-long presentation and an in-depth discussion. There's no resolution coming out of that, but we appreciated learning the results of Andrew's organization's analysis. Secondly, we had another discussion about the Gansevoort Square project area, and that has resulted in a resolution to asking the city to expand the study area from just the one sort of block or partial block that they're working on up to the north, some state-owned land on the block to the north, and also all of 10th Avenue from Jane Street well, all of the area from Jane Street to West 14th Street, from Washington to West Street or 9A, depending on how it's named. So we are, the committee is still reviewing the resolution. And Valerie, may I just report on some news that we got today from about, there's some questions, even though the contract has been signed, the new developer was announced on October 31st. There are some reports in the electronic press, the online press today, with questions about the new developer. And so now we're still thinking, and we're still thinking about what that means. Just, I don't know, was it, Janine, was it yesterday that it came out?
I think it was yesterday.
Yeah. So we've just had almost 24 hours to think about some rather serious questions being raised about this emerging developer.
Will you be introducing anything today regarding that?
Well, I put together sort of a timeline, an outline with some questions. It's not a lot of time to work on it, but I sent it to you and Janine and Carter. If we want to talk about that more in depth, we can.
Okay, maybe we'll bring it up in new business then.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, does that make sense? Does everyone agree to that? Okay, yeah. Great, thank you. So next, let me go back.
Would you send it to me too, please?
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Good, see you later.
You too.
Okay, so, and what's on the agenda for December
For land use.
for land use?
For December, so we are still waiting on the other, obviously the other main project in our area, 388 Hudson. So it's still unknown whether or not they will have a developer selected for that process in time for December. So we're still evaluating the topics for the December meeting.
Okay, I mean, if you don't have anything within the next week, I would just cancel the meeting if you don't have anything to meet on. Because the calendar, when does the calendar go out?
On the Friday, right?
Yeah, so it goes out Friday and then we get into the Thanksgiving week. So if, like, I'd say Monday at the latest, I would call it.
May I just add, Valerie, that we did discuss the fact that the Board of Standards and Appeals is going to have a hearing on December 7th and 8th or 8th and 9th on the 51 Little West 12th Street. It's a variance for the lot between the Brass Monkey and the beer garden for the Standard Hotel. And since we have a resolution on it, either Eugene or I will be able to present that resolution to the Board of Standards and Appeals.
So I should keep the land use on for this Friday on the calendar.
Well, no, because it doesn't have any agenda items. We don't put things on our calendar that don't have agenda items, right? So, yeah, so if something comes up, then we'll add it back to the e-blast, but otherwise, we don't want to advertise a meeting that has nothing on it.
So that's just
Yeah,
Monday.
yeah, I mean, it's still gonna be on here, but we're just not gonna, it doesn't go on the e-blast. Yeah.
Stays on our
It's on our
internal.
internal one, yeah, but we don't need to notify the public about something we don't have any agenda items for that requires us to come up with them. So, okay, and I guess from there, and I'll be reaching out to start getting your 6-month outlooks, so we can have those to look at in December at exec.
Yeah, and there's also just one other item. There's the development that's going up at 5 West 13th Street. Technically, it is an as-of-right development, but Village Preservation has raised a concern that zoning is not correct for that. So I think we're still evaluating whether we should have the developers as well as George James, who was the consultant for that for Village Preservation, present on that, because that's technically, again, it's as of right, but there are some questions as to whether the zoning is correct for that development.
So this is, we're gonna continue to see, I think, this happen where things that are as of right are being challenged.
Yeah.
In this way. And so I think as a group, we need to think about who gets to do, how do we decide what gets heard here?
Right.
And by whom? And, you know, I would think we should be, I know there was some talk of maybe hiring George James to like look at that for us, but he was also the hired consultant on that side. And so I guess, is this a forum for the developer and the applicant to come, but this is to be adjudicated not by us. No one's asking us. We're not being presented with an application here. This is as of right. And so I believe a letter has been sent to the DOB commissioner regarding this. Is that correct?
That's the form. That's the form that George Jean's challenge took.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and I think we may actually want to ask George about this because the as of right is much more complicated
Okay.
than it seems because and we've seen this with other projects that there's stepping stones that people take. That one interpretation which leads to another, that leads to another, that leads to another, on which the as of right claim rests on. And that's something we need to have a better understanding of because sometimes it's too late and we don't have all the information that's been put together to discuss it, and then it just becomes an explanation meeting as to why it's as of right. Right. And so it's something in a larger context we may want to, I mean, this is why we had, I think, advocated right in the having some sort of advocate in the city level for as of right issues that people can go and bring up these things early on.
Right, because we're always the last to know. And the other factor that you may want to consider in that, which is a completely correct way to approach this, is if the George James challenge is successful and the proposed building is not as of right, then it becomes a discretionary approval, which should come to this board.
Yes.
Right, so you may not want to.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
We think this is terrible because you'll have essentially cut yourself out of the process before it even started. So,
Or it would be formally referred to.
Correct.
Right, okay.
And I think there's some other challenges from the liquor authority applications that we've heard of having to do with buildable areas, what's counted as FAR, what's not. And so there's a lot of these challenges that do occur that we don't necessarily see, but I'm not sure how they're reviewed. So, and whether or not the permits have to be pulled first in order for it to then be challenged. So I think that they wait until applications are complete. I'm not sure, but that's something we may want to find out more about.
George would,
yeah, just so that that's more important, I think, for the board to understand if we want to look at individual applications. You know, it's like just it always reminds me back to Tom Dwayne, which is if you don't know how to complain, you can't make the complaints, and that's what we're trying to do. And you know, I don't know if people remember, he always said, when you call, find out who you're talking to, what their name is, what their title is.
Well, and that's in part because there is no public hearing at the Department of Buildings. There's it's just the developer and the guy on the other side of the counter. You know, if it's as of right, they just check all the boxes and then give you the permit. Anyway, you got it.
May I speak about as of right?
Sure.
First of all, Janine's your computer is close to a mic and it's rattling away when you type. That's not as of right.
That's not the first time, right?
A number of
Spend your time.
we often get applications of throwing out as of right, meaning zoning and not. There's no such thing as of right landmarks, because it's in the end subjective, and we always have to be on top of making it clear, because the applicant never does, that yet another layer is speaking of is that though it may conform to zoning, it may not be acceptable from a landmark point of view. Thank you.
Thanks, Chanel. Katie, did you want to add to that?
I just wanted to say that when we were looking at the City of Yes proposal, we actually had George Janes look at this lot. So, you know, if we had him come, he could be building on something that he had already looked at for us. You know what I mean? We could look at it that way if it's helpful.
No, that's helpful. I more was, it was nothing against him, and when Carter kind of said it makes sense, but more is because he's not a neutral party in this, right? He did prepare something for, I don't know, but I'm now seeing that I don't want to limit that. So I agree. And I want to go back and look at that report one more time.
I just want to bring up something though, just because we ask somebody to come and it's as of right, doesn't mean that you can't have a conversation with the developer to end up with a better project.
So it can be the forum. We necessarily might not want to write a resolution if it might potentially be officially referred to us, right?
No, I'm just saying, creating a forum for discussion is not a negative thing. They may not choose not to participate, but perhaps they want to hear what.
I mean, we can have we can have a discussion and not necessarily take a position at the time, you know, but it may be useful to have that discussion as a forum to have the community as well understand what the issues are.
Yeah.
I mean, we just recently had this issue where we asked the developer if they would come back and discuss it with us, and they told us no. But we asked,
Right.
and that was on St. Luke's, and you know, so just because
it's important to be on the record that we asked.
Right. So would Eugene and Katie, like, would this be on the December agenda, or?
Or
is that too soon? Or, I mean, I don't know what the time.
I would say it might depend on whether those people could come, you know, I mean, we might
that's true.
want to reach out and see what their availability is, and then we could decide, and Eugene and I can get back.
Okay, got it. The other thing I wanted to bring up is, like I said, this seems to be a trend of some sort. So the same thing, there's been a website that's been created about questioning the validity of St. Luke's interpretation of the zoning. I'm not going to even try to explain what that is, but there is a site somewhere, maybe somebody can put it in the chat, that is challenging specific things that they have done to get to the point that they're at in their process. So, and they believe they reached out to us, right, Mark? Initially, they reached out to us, the party. I'm assuming that the party who made the website is the same party who reached out questioning of what to do. And
that person reached out to Councilmember Eric Botcher.
Yes, and then
sent it to us.
That's right. And at the same time, parallel happening was this on West 13th. And I had mentioned it might maybe show that sending a letter to the commissioner of DOB regarding this issue would be a smart use of their resources. But this is going to continue to happen. So I don't know if there's something else with that, or if you guys have taken a look at the site and want to comment on that.
This is sort of another tack. This same person and I assume group came rather heavily us at the original hearing with totally non-landmark reasons that we should deny it from our point of view.
Okay.
The gist of the website is it's land use. It's about the open space and prior commitments made, and I haven't dug into it or anything.
Yeah.
It's a land use issue. It's not a landmarks issue.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Eugene and Katie?
No.
Okay. Thank you for that robust discussion. Let me go back to my slide so I can see what we're on next. Landmarks. Chanel.
We had a heavy month. Two notable things, one of them very notable and very disappointing, and one rather pleasing. There are a pair of houses on Lower Sullivan Street, farther down towards Sixth Avenue than one thinks about when one thinks about Sullivan Street. They were made individual landmarks, maybe 10 years or so before the district was landmarked. And that gives them kind of double protection for being in both categories. They are relatively pristine in front, and one is crumbling and the other has had unfortunate alterations inside of the back. A proposal to combine them came to us, and it was one of the worst we have ever had, with completely enclosing the back of the house in glass with hanging gardens, straight out of Hollywood. And it's further complicated because there's a vacant lot next door. And when there's a vacant lot, that's always our fault that there's visibility. And that figured into the whole presentation and the talking around justification of why things could be seen that shouldn't be seen. And there is an enormous rooftop addition that is completely visible. So the upshot of that was we recommended denial of the entire application, and recommend to Landmarks that, having heard it, they don't have their decision time and send it back with instructions to do something that's acceptable. Another is a new building in Soho that is quite an interesting interpretation rather than reproduction of a cast iron building. And it's being combined next door with an existing initially row house that was increased and commendably they've kept it completely separate on the front, so you have no idea. And that was pleased. Otherwise, it was just a very busy time, as December plans to be. And we anticipate in January the difficult building that is a movie theater, no longer a movie theater, on Canal Street and Broadway. And it has a very difficult problem that the commission has dealt with, and it was to us before, of being essentially both in Canal Street and Soho. And how do you make a building that serves both that's more than the original? So we look for a busy time for at least the next 2 months.
Right, yeah, and looks like, well, Monday, the 15th will be that second meeting if needed in December. January is gonna be a little tough because that's the holiday. So we'll have to figure something out. Okay, thank you, Chenault. The next, for outdoor dining, I will bring up in new business. I have something to bring up in new business. And then in SLA.
We did SLA.
And we did SLA. Oh, you're right, we did. And Parks is not here. And street activities, we did. Oh, yeah, because I forgot I went out of order. I went in the order of the calendar. Thank you guys so much. Okay, so with that, we're going to move to new business. So new business printed out is a proposed resolution. Everyone get a copy. Also share it digitally on screen. You guys have to look at this one.
Thank you.
Would you like one? There you go. Everyone have one in here? Great, okay. So there are hearings. There's 5 bills that have been introduced regarding outdoor dining and changes to the Dining Out NYC program. We met last night. So there's a hearing on 3 of those bills on Monday, the 24th. It was initially going to be this Monday, but that got moved, likely because of a speakers forum. And so out of the discussion of those different bills, we have so many past positions on things that these bills are proposing. 2 of them have not been scheduled because they're kind of related to one another. So one of them is to return the program to the jurisdiction of DCWP. That's one of the bills. And then another one is to remove the revocable consent. So it's just a license being issued, which essentially, because of the nature of revocable consent, requires community board review, or if you remove a revocable consent from that, then it does not require it. And there's other ones about the sidewalk, clear path, reducing it back to 8 feet and all that. So we have a bunch of past positions that cover most of those. But one thing that came out of our conversation in new business last night was about the we have so many applications that will come in. It's literally just 2 tables. It's 2 light cafe tables, very much in the spirit of what I think the program aspires to be, with great actors and whatnot. And so out of that conversation, I've done so much talking of this. I'd love Carter, Donna, if you'd like to speak about how this kind of conversation came up out of just kind of discussing those bills.
Donna and I have just noticed from reviewing all these small, just a couple tables against the building, you create more issues by putting barriers out in the street and may impede more traffic. And they're generally very, there may be a couple outliers or there are more than a few tables, but for the most part, it's such a minimal intrusion that this seems like a good exception to be made. And our board had a lot of issues with the rules because they were sort of one size fits alls for the whole city. But this really takes into account the expanded universe of where sidewalk cafes can be located to a lot of our more narrow residentially only zoned areas where we have non-conforming commercial uses, that this creates a smoother engagement for pedestrians walking down the street and businesses. And to us, it makes sense. And these are also the operators that have the hardest time putting in the barriers because nobody wants them to put them in. And as a result, it leads to a non-compliant situation, which we're trying to avoid. And on top of it, the way you enter into a sidewalk cafe that has barriers, this creates a really awkward situation when it's just 2 tables in front of a business.
And we've had, in all of the applications that we've heard, we've had some, and I'm thinking of the cheese shop one. You guys remember the one I'm thinking about? And he said, like, we just want to have, there's so many people so many of them, there's so many examples that come in and they just want to have a table or 2 out just so people know that they're there. And it's even rarely used, or maybe people
They are used, but I mean,
They're
it's just one, it's just usually, I mean, I think what we're thinking is the small table that is adjacent to the building with the 2 chairs, everything is parallel to the building, it's right smashed up against it. And then putting a barrier in there makes it just deeper and wider and more cumbersome. And I think those are the ones that I'm envisioning are those small cafe tables.
I was trying to
do
find
in parallel to
last night.
I mean, there's.
Well, everybody has seen this
Yeah.
before. So our typical lot sizes in our buildings, once you account for residential entry, then you put the commercial storefront, the commercial entry is often in the middle, and you have a spot on both sides, and putting a table and 2 chairs on both sides of the entryway is not uncommon. That's the situation that we see across so many storefronts. Or it's 2 tables to the left or right of a commercial entry. So
Seems reasonable to me.
yeah, I mean, it's fairly straightforward. I think we're discussing.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. Do you expect any opposition at the city council on this one?
I don't know if, I think that because we have so many applications and we see this just makes sense. I mean, we've seen so many of them that this is a good way to amend the rules. There are many other issues that we have with all the different things and there are a lot of different opinions. But I think that this one is fairly straightforward. And typically these smaller businesses are also the ones that directly serve residents in our community. And so their patrons are usually the people who reside here. And
this is a table like against the wall with the seats.
Parallel.
Yeah, not with the back, not with your back sitting to the, right? So it's like what the, there's only 3 sides to the table and the 2 seats are.
Still
so maybe we should
maintaining
ask the question,
clear path.
does anybody here have any thoughts? or
Yeah,
objections
yeah.
on it or any-
Questions,
Yes,
comments? Yeah.
having sat on the committees for reviewing these applications, certainly we could avoid a lot of barriers and make a lot of businesses happy if we eliminated all of these rules. But to eliminate this rule for this particular situation, when all the other businesses have to comply with the rules about ADA access and a barrier to keep the seats from encroaching on the clear path. And this has been one of the biggest difficulties, especially in our district, but maybe in other districts as well, because of the narrow sidewalks. So we've had to state in our resolutions over and over again, as others have said, that there's room for table and chairs and the clear path required, but it is so narrow that it does not meet ADA guidelines. In other words, you could not seat a person within that narrow slice of sidewalk and comply with ADA code.
We have ADA, and we do have, sorry, continue, I don't mean to.
So we still have, even with this resolution, we would still have those issues. We'll still have a lot of businesses that they have maybe 2 feet or less to put a table and chair, and that does not meet the guidelines. So they would still be prohibited from having a setup.
Right, even with this wording.
Even with the wording, that's right. But my biggest concern is that what we've, as a community, as a district and city, we've had to deal with the scofflaws. We're still trying to get restaurants with a lot of seating to put up a barrier so that we know where the line is for the clear path. And if they don't have barriers, we see it every day. They're out in the sidewalk and creating a hazard and a quality of life issue. We're having trouble getting people to comply with the rules as they have been in place since, it's over a year that they were supposed to comply, and they still haven't. I just feel like we would be saying, we're kind of throwing up our hands and say, well, nobody's complying anyway, so let's just let them do what they want.
Well, I don't understand what you're saying has to do with what we're presenting, because you're talking.
Has everything
about,
to do with it.
Well, no, you're talking about larger scale setups, when this is just the simple 2 tables, 3 tables in front of a business against the
Okay,
building
I'm
line.
specifically for a small table and 2 chairs up against the wall. If it doesn't comply with the rules of having a clear path and a line of separation from that clear path to the seating. If there's room for a clear path and following the rules for seating with a table and 2 chairs, then let them comply with the barrier. If there's not room for a barrier, then they're not complying.
But I guess I'm just confused, because that's the whole point of why would you stick a barrier in a sidewalk when there's enough room, when there's only 1 row of tables and chairs? And we've seen it because we've had 5 years of experience where these don't cause a problem. And I don't understand how you're saying they cause a problem.
I have not seen a situation like you're describing with a barrier that's causing a problem. It's when it's too crowded to serve on their cafe space, And so we want to eliminate the barriers so they can serve from the table. It's out at the path, clear path on the sidewalk. That's what it sounds like this resolution is saying. Let them serve from the clear path of the sidewalk.
That's not what it says.
That's what I read in it. That's what they will be doing. If you pass this, that's what they'll be doing. They'll be serving from the sidewalk.
If the city is already approving these cafes, which they are, and what we're asking here is that they meet the existing clear path requirements in the ADA. What's the difference? I don't understand why what you're suggesting is they're approving it anyway. So, and I also think it's unfriendly to businesses, to small businesses too, because these are our businesses that need the visibility. We've always heard this, and we've heard testimony prior to COVID over and over and over from business owners that I need to have this table and chairs outside, and I need to pay these crazy fees to the architects that this previously, and the square footage and the renewal fees, because this is how people can see down the block that there is a restaurant here as well.
I just put an example.
And now we have a much larger universe of where these can be. So why would we want to extend that to all of our neighborhood small businesses? I mean, I just don't see it as a huge imposition. In fact, seems to me it makes more,
I guess, to the point about the larger ones that are the issues that are encroaching, I think that what this does is it allows the enforcement mechanic to focus on those larger issues than to have to penalize, and also time and the administrative costs of having to go and for not having, or limiting businesses that can participate because they can't. Yeah. Anyways, I'm kind of done on my feedback. Chenault? Chenault?
Yes. I have two specific instances. The northwest corner of 4th Street and 10th Street is somewhat this situation, and there is no barrier, and it's a constant invitation to a third chair. Really makes it impossible to pass on the sidewalk. And further along on 4th Street and maybe Charles, where Mary's Fish Camp premises, that's now a sandwich shop.
Sandwich shop.
And they have 50s springulator chairs and round tables that look in no way the scale of the drawing that was just up. And they're invariably angled toward the street, with people who have long legs always seem to sit in them and stretch out. It's more of a lounging than a sitting at a table. And those are two places within a couple blocks of each other where there's no enforcement, and where these very barriers would be useful to keep legs and excess chairs within.
Well, and that's that's particularly DOT not
enforcing,
not referring an application like that to us and not saying, oh, maybe you should look at our bench program. That's run out of a different department. Maybe a bench would be more appropriate on something there. But it's also like when on a global corridor street, such as what am I thinking of? Parts of Prince. I'm not going to call out the specific operator, but that sidewalk is 12 feet in this case, and it requires, the width of the sidewalk is 12 feet, and a global corridor requires a 12-foot clear path. That application shouldn't be referred to us, because that doesn't. It's like physically
I think to Chenault's point, I think he raises a good point, but that doesn't, what we're saying here is specifically 2 chairs, 1 table, 2 chairs up against a building
Yeah,
parallel to a building. So both of those examples
would be,
are again,
yeah.
examples that are not compliant along with so many of the other things that are not compliant, but that is not what this
Yeah.
pertains
And their
to.
dimensions for the table and chairs.
No, but there, it says that the clear path is maintained and it's ADA, complies with ADA and the clear path is maintained.
So what happens, Chenault, in that scenario is you put a barrier in and the barrier is just pushed out further and takes up more of the sidewalk space.
I'm not saying this is bad. I'm saying those are two examples that are
Blatant
simply
violation.
non-enforcement of what is now. And is that going to amplify?
Yeah, can I just say, like, the question is, we should vote on this?
Yeah.
I'm sure. I don't know if there's more discussion.
Well, did you have?
I was just gonna ask, is it allowed, are they allowed to wrap it around the corner? Because the one Chenault was talking about is that where you would have they have like three tables parallel on 10th, and then they have like, I believe, two around the corner on West Fourth.
They're allowed to. I mean, currently, right now, you're allowed to.
This would cover, like, you could wrap it around a corner as long as it's.
Yeah, as long as it does that. Yeah.
Against the wall, against the building.
Okay. Chenault, is your hand still up to say something, or is that from before? And then Janine, you had a comment.
I'm just ready to vote on it.
Okay. So, does somebody want to? Okay, so I'll just bring it to a vote. So
is it introduced?
it's introduced.
I'll second it.
Okay, yes. So it's been seconded by Carter. So all those in favor of having, allowing this, sending this to the full board.
Yeah.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Recusals? Okay, thank you very much.
And Mark, if we can just make that very clear with the link for the meeting tomorrow on this, so because essentially the full board will be the public hearing for this, so people can give any thoughts.
Oh, okay.
So just to make sure it's.
If this is linked separately?
Yeah,
So take a look at the proposed agenda for
Okay.
the board. Why don't you mark it up and tell me how you.
Yeah, or whatever it is. I mean, just somewhere.
It's separate, it's here.
It's this page.
Carter, it's this guy.
So under public session, we'll have it as a number one. And we'll put this.
Under public session?
Yeah.
No.
No?
So it would be new business. It would just be under new business,
Oh, right.
list it.
And then you'll have an asterisk and then resolution from.
Yes, just with the link
Okay,
to it.
but we're voting on it.
Well, you don't need a link because it'll be in the board package, right?
But just if we put the link, people can look. I mean, I'd rather hear if
As you
people
wish.
have
As you
right
wish.
comments. It's not, nobody's.
No, that's
I think
fine. No,
Mark-
I'm just trying to understand like
Brian brings
why.
up good
I'm
points.
just trying to
if
think
people wanna-
why when we put it under the public session, though, if that's where we want people to comment on it.
No. The public session is where anybody can comment
On
on
anything.
anything.
Okay,
But
that's
you
fair.
want to just have it listed as a very clear new business item.
Okay,
that, people want to comment on it, we welcome the comments. I think it's important if we can,
Yeah.
maybe people will change their minds, whatever. I mean,
okay, so we'll put it on letterhead, put the draft thing.
Okay, do you have this as a Word?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
Because I only have this.
So then we add we add under 7.
Under 7, new business.
Oh, it's not a standing
Under
committee.
9.
It wouldn't come under executive? Isn't there something when we have
it's just
something?
new business that,
I know it's new business, but it's not, but this is voted on at exec. And so typically we have something we vote on at exec like we did at the October meeting.
But didn't we vote to send it
We
to?
voted to send it. We're not voting on it.
We're not taking a position. We are
Okay, fair.
voting to
Okay, fair.
simply
Send it.
Okay, so in new business. Okay, so there's nothing under number 7 that says executive committee.
just so there's a new business item that's referred from the executive committee.
But that's unusual in my experience, but you can do whatever you want.
Well, then, that's what I'm trying to understand here. So what is the process?
Usually a voted executive.
The report
It's the same way
from
when you have a
exec.
committee
Yeah,
adopts
so
a
it goes under
resolution and then
7.
it goes to full board
Yeah.
for a vote.
But it would go under, so we would write executive here?
That would,
But-
ordinarily, you'd put it in the same place that you put SLA.
Yeah,
It'd be executive,
yeah,
but then you don't have the asterisk.
And that's what we want. I mean, we want people to be able,
Then put it under new business, but we're gonna vote on it as one of the I'm just trying to, it's gonna be during our business session. We're not gonna vote on it in new business, correct?
What I would want to make sure.
We'll have it separately, but it just
is that
isn't.
the public is able to
Yes.
see that this is being considered, that they can review it ahead of time. It's very clearly there for them to review, and then they can.
It just doesn't make sense to go to new business. I know it needs to be called out, but it just makes sense to be called out underneath executive.
None of our other items would note those topics.
Fine.
What we're trying to do here is to bring.
But just to be clear, okay.
So here's what, so last
I'll give you the
month,
language.
that's, okay. Last month, we had a special call out for the budget priorities. And it was, so under business session is 5, approval of the minutes is 6. It was actually 7 was just the budget priorities. And there was an asterisk for that. And then the rest of that was, actually the asterisk was up in the public session because that's the public hearing, quote unquote. But that was a call out especially for that. And then there was the rest of the resolutions from standing committees. How about that?
That's fine. Yeah.
So putting public hearing up here for this?
No.
Oh.
No, it would be 7 would be the title of the resolution, and exec, it would be fine, would be in there, underneath it says exec Valerie De La Rosa chair. And then 8 would become resolutions from standing committees as you see it.
Okay.
And then the asterisk would be in the 7th.
And just to be clear, we're not required to have a public hearing on this. What we're doing is trying to make sure that the community has an opportunity to comment. The reason that we're doing this is because there is a public hearing
on
City
Monday.
Council on Monday.
Gotcha.
And so there's no other way for the board to have a position on this unless we pass something.
Okay.
So-
Okay.
Got it.
Thank you all for working through that with me. I appreciate your patience. Now, is there any other new business?
There is the Gansford Square.
The Gansevoort Square.
Katie,
Okay,
do
great.
you want to,
Katie.
Well, I shared, I had some comments, but no time to really work on it. What we have learned today or last night is that there's quite a bit of criticism of the developers that were chosen for Gansevoort Square. On October 31st, NYC EDC announced Douglaston Development as the lead developer and Kinwood Partners as an emerging developer. And the definition of an emerging developer is, I don't know if there's an official one and some list of definitions as you would have in a legal document, but it's an opportunity to give people who are underrepresented, minority women, minorities, someone who isn't so, doesn't have as much real estate experience as the lead developer. What has come out is that David Himmel, the head of the newly formed Kinwood Partners, the emerging developer, which may have been formed, within days of the announcement of the RFP, he is not an emerging developer. He's well developed. He's well grounded in the real estate industry. He has worked for 10 years for a major real estate firm. He actually is the COO of Jamestown, which sold Chelsea Market to Google for $2.4 billion in 2018. Also owns One Times Square where the ball drops. And someone as prominent as Alicia Glenn, who used to be first deputy mayor for housing and economic development, is publicly questioning the choice it made here. There's another anonymous complaint in this piece from a developer who wasn't chosen, is another complaint. So we have a lot of questions. We've been very critical of the process, of the ideas, of the use of the public land, all from the beginning, where we about just over a year ago when we first heard about this project. We've had a lot of questions and criticisms, and now, even though the contract is signed, there are other questions coming forward. So the question was raised overnight, should we take a stand? Should we criticize? Should we respond to this issue? Now, I know the contract has been signed and lawyers have said that, can't interfere with the contract, but these are pretty serious questions about something that we already have serious questions about. So I'm putting it forward.
The article says, this might fine line fit in to what is, the rules, but this is just another veering off a transparent process, right? And process in the way that we were told this whole project is supposed to happen, and it just adds on to all the other concerns that we have. And I think that's what we want to voice, right? Or the many different concerns in some sort of a letter. But I mean, that we were excluded from this, from early on. They've not been particularly interested in our engagement, it seems. And again, we see that the process, had encouraged the selection of somebody within a certain criteria framework. And then that doesn't quite meet the spirit of what that criteria framework is. And at the same time, other developers may not have been given a full consideration who may be in a very similar position as the developer that was
Or had they
selected.
known they could structure something this way?
I think it's also, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's exactly.
I think it's also important to remember that, yes, you may have a signed contract, but if there's been sufficient misrepresentation, maybe you don't actually have a valid contract. And if nothing else, the whole process should have been aired. And that's what we bring to the community, is those kind of questions.
I'm sharing this is from the RFP, what they said emerging developer guidelines were.
So the RFP though, it's one of the criteria, but it didn't require an emerging developer, right? So that they're saying now,
there are
it didn't
MW.
require one, but we did end up choosing one. But then what they're calling an emerging developer has an interesting definition.
So they're basing it on the
But-
corporate entity and
Yeah.
not the leadership of the organization.
I mean, do we know
What
how?
was the question? What was the question? I couldn't quite hear
I'm
it.
just saying, we don't know, based on this language, which is very high level, it's based on the corporate entity.
Oh, right. No, I was asking more about.
I was saying, like, just the Real Deal article
Yeah.
says that this emerging developer was not actually a requirement of the project. It was just like a nice to have.
All right.
But if it was used as part of the final selection criteria to
That-
give
and
an
it was
advantage over another
I
firm,
think it was very strongly implied that a developer would have to have an emerging developer to.
Do we know how many firms applied? We have that?
They said about 10, I think it's seven, but they didn't give us the exact number. They said 10, but it's not quite 10. Because they fuddled a little bit. But they said 10 is about it, yeah.
I mean, when we asked DVC about the emerging developer, they told us specifically that they wanted to have an emerging developer in order to make the pool of people that are familiar with how to do affordable housing projects become a larger pool. And so it seemed like it was a very important part of their selection criteria. The emerging developer.
I'll share some more
Well, they're
language.
stating it as part of their selection in the decision that they made, then it was part of the decision-making for this developer.
What do you want to see, the matrix of, you want to request, like, what was the matrix of
well,
what?
no, I think this just raises all these ongoing issues. Every time we take another step forward here, there are more issues, and it just keeps bringing all these problems back to the forefront, that this was not really conceived very well, and the movement for this one singular small project is at the expense of a better plan throughout all these issues. And I think that even, the comments by Alicia Glenn, I mean, are very telling, as somebody who has, a long history of public service, having strong issues with this, I think resonates with the rest of the board, how people feel about, if you say you're going to do something, you should follow that criteria.
And maybe the tack to take is a little more provocative. This is such a, we've always wanted more affordable housing. It's 55% affordable housing. So they're saying, wow, it's great. It's more than 50. But this is such a lucrative opportunity to build luxury housing with spectacular Hudson River views, that there are well-heeled development teams restructuring themselves to check the emerging developer box and get in on this boondoggle to and profit from this development scheme.
It also calls into question, what kind of due diligence does EDC do? If they either they don't do it, which means questions whether or not they should be leading this kind of project, or they've been lying, and misrepresent and going with the misrepresentation.
Well, I would not say that.
Yeah.
It seems from the article, they met the various minimal technical requirements, but I think that that's against the spirit of whenever we would see that type of language in something, what we would expect.
Right. And so right here, this language that I've included here, this was preceding the Appendix C. It gives more color to what it's about.
I would just like to see more transparency. Like, what were the steps by which you arrived at this choice, and like, what were the exact criteria, and like, were you ranking people on different, like a point system? Like, how did they get there? I don't know if they'll do that to us, but like, that would help.
Well, we've asked for some type of that information, and they have said that it's confidential because it's part of their RFP process. I mean, we can ask more specific types of questions, but when we have asked them this, very recently, they use the RFP process kind of as a shield, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't we using this as another reason to support our other asks, which is to revisit what's happening here?
Yeah, because there's such a huge opportunity to make this a better project.
Which is why I like your statement you made about pointing out.
And I think, to your point, if we really want, and for a lot of the other issues that are laid out, if we really want to change, or if this area is deindustrializing and there is going to be change, shouldn't the one-time opportunity through that deindustrialization really take place when this is the centerpiece of building? I mean, this is right in the middle. If you do this, that you don't have the opportunities to do any of that take any of those other steps. So I don't think we should ask. I think we should just say this is another reason to revisit the entire.
Because they're not going to tell us anyway.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, was it such a narrow definition that very few firms could actually fit into all the criteria? And like, are the other 4 or 5 also the same structure? Like the other 4 or 5 emerging developers that they considered, is it the similar idea? Was it people with experience who just restructured? I don't know.
Or it didn't say they had to be.
Right.
So,
but I want to go back to Will's question. I mean, the whole reason that they're doing this through EDC is to be non-transparent. Will, I mean, if it were in a city agency, we would have already had more access. And so, to what Carter says, we have so many questions, but they've shielded us. They've put a barrier by the way they're doing it.
So how do we want to respond? And I would say, like, to this, I mean, this is this part of it. We'll go ahead while I.
No, that's, I mean, I think, as you're saying, just lack of transparency in general is another issue with the whole project.
I mean, it's when you talk about the spirit, I mean, this is the spirit. Reduce the barriers to entry into the real estate developer community for emerging developers, and to develop a pipeline of emerging developers. And this just DOA. I mean, it's just
going back to what Janine said,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a project that it was explained to us because of where it's located and the opportunities here, that it would not need to receive any financing from any city resources, so it could be self-financed. But here you saying, asking for emerging developers, and you're building this huge building that is, and then putting and expecting, with all that luxury development, that you're going to exclude all these other developers that have the experience developing in the city. It doesn't all fit together. And then you have somebody who has this extensive experience in the leadership from another firm starting their own firm, just conceivably to apply for this project. It doesn't come together in a way that makes much sense. And is the future of rebuilding the city just shuffling around all the players?
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what it is. And that seems to not allow for the emergence of other people on projects. But also, is this project of such a scale, the way that it's presented, that a developer without extensive experience, and I'm not sure how it all breaks down into who's playing what role, can build this type of building? I mean, this is a huge building. If you've seen any renderings of it, it stands taller than any other building
Downtown.
Well, that's
area.
That's kind of why I was asking, like, I'm wondering, like, did they just put it in there as like a signaling thing? Like, oh, we're trying to do the right thing, but knowing that the requirements to actually have a developer that passed these barriers of like, oh, an X amount of experience, knows how to do this, like, but it's still small enough to be emerging. Like, did they know going in that might actually be a very, very small list? Like, I don't know.
I think they were on, if I remember correctly, I think their names appeared on the site visit sign-up sheet. So if you want to know who applied, it's going to be people that were on that sign-up sheet. That's public information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they're all there, because I know some firms sent consultants in their place, so it may not be an exhaustive, but so we did run into consultants.
It has 105 people on it.
Yeah, but some of those were not from a real estate firm.
A lot of them are.
We're just not going to have the info we want, so I think we just say
They're all consultants. I'm just saying there are some that were consultants, only consultants.
So if we do a letter, because it seems like it's a letter, right? Because we're expressing concern. And if you want to put something together for consideration of the board to review on Thursday, what do you want to have in it, and what do we want the conclusion to be? Because that seems like the direction, right, that we're going.
Well, it sounds like it's going to need to be brought up in new business because there's nothing for us to look at here to vote on. So,
but I'm just trying to give Katie the direction.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've taken notes, and of course there'll be a recording, but I think you've added a lot of things tonight. The CB2 was excluded from the process early on. This analysis is only adding to our longstanding questions. Does not meet the spirit of the criteria. And I think, Will, I have to say that the criteria are specific enough that I think this is really totally in opposition to what Valerie put up on the screen. So I don't think it was like a little sloughing off or something. Those criteria seem pretty clear. Is there a misrepresentation here? Thank you, Susan. Well-heeled development firms are creating emerging developers to take advantage of this opportunity. We receive bare minimum of the technical regulation requirements. We really want more transparency. How did you get to this decision? Is there a matrix that we could see? And just makes us say the whole project needs to be revisited because this is a one-time opportunity. Those are the things that I heard today that might go into a letter, have to be put together a little differently. But are there other things that need to go into the letter?
And I just want to make sure, and do we want to keep saying that we've been left out of this process? Is that important for this letter? Or is it stronger saying that the argument of this is an emerging developer, this is what you're saying emerging developer is, and this is wrong?
Could I get clarification? Would this be a resolution or a letter?
A letter.
So here's a question. Do we use this as the cover letter for the other resolution?
So question, that was my other question. Is there a
Putting
resolution?
this all together.
Is there a resolution coming before the full board from the land use meeting this month? Remind me.
It'll be in
There
the,
is. There is.
Right? On Gansevoort Square?
No.
Yeah. Well,
There is
on
a,
the
there is a,
expanded,
less- there
On
is a
the expansion,
resolution. From the November meeting? Are you asking if there's a resolution? Yes.
Yeah,
there
what
is.
are the resolution subjects from land use this month?
There was the report by Village Preservation on the rezoning. And then the other was the discussion on the Gansevoort. It's a large
Expanding
area.
the area.
Right. And that discussion produced a resolution.
Okay, so there are two resolutions.
Yeah, there's one resolution.
And that resolution.
First discussion didn't result in a resolution.
So
That resolution on the Gansevoort Square area also calls into question, right, the Gansevoort Square development. As far as the expansion, right? Because we were talking about it's more comprehensive. So this just further adds to that, and maybe if the board is voting on this as a position, it can go into a cover letter that includes the resolution, because I'm just thinking in a more of a streamlined process, right? Of
So not
delivering
presenting a
all
letter.
this
Instead of
information.
redoing the resolution.
Not doing the letter? Or not presenting the letter to be voted on? Is that?
No, that's not
What if this was an
I said.
amendment resolution instead? I mean, would that also work?
We could do that, but I think that we're trying to express concern,
Yeah.
right? And you don't express concern through a resolution. A resolution has a resolved.
Therefore be it resolved, we're concerned.
Yeah, it doesn't really add up, but in a cover letter that the board has also taken a position on and delivering information, you can deliver the resolution with additional language over it.
I mean, I guess I was thinking of this as a resolution, and I was thinking the resolve would be to ask for of the other developers, the emerging developers, to make sure that they all did meet the criteria.
I mean, I don't think that we're ready to have a resolution. I mean, I think this is a letter of concern. We're responding to an article.
We want engagement.
You know, we're responding to an article that a media company put out.
That raised
concerns, and now we have concerns based on this story.
Yeah, I wouldn't be ready to make a resolution off of one.
Also, we have nothing to look at this meeting, and do we have the resolution on Gansevoort Square ready to go so that the board can read it?
So it'll have to be new business as a letter then.
I just want to say that one of the things that we spoke about was the fact that this resolution should go to Mayor-elect Mamdani's transition team.
The letter.
No, the letter, we discussed that the resolution that would go to the transition team. So if that is happening and we're writing an additional letter, that should also go there.
So just to be clear, the whole reason we're doing this resolution and the reason we met this month was to put forward in one place a comprehensive position that the board has. We're now adding a layer of concern over that. It should not be separate. These all need to be brought together. You don't send one thing one place and another thing somewhere else. That's the problem we've had with all the boards.
You get one, you get the other.
We have to put it all together so that we can share all this as one thing.
I haven't seen the other resolution, but what about adding just a couple whereases describing what we learned and adding another therefore be it resolved that we want to invest, we're very concerned about this or something like that, and wrap it into the resolution, then it's clean.
And that this seems to raise issues of what's happening with this process, and perhaps the entirety of this has to be revisited.
Janine, to do that, we would have to raise that as an amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can be ready with it as an amendment.
Yeah. I mean.
But also, we can say that that's an amendment that we discussed here and put it into the resolution because you presented, the.
This is
the
new
resolution
information.
here. Yeah,
Also
this is
make
new
sure
information.
it's socialized with the committee.
Yeah.
It's, the resolution as is committee's work.
Has the committee seen the resolution?
Yeah.
Yes, they're working on it.
I doubt that there would be any objections from the
No,
committee.
no.
If anything, there's more concern. So if we're trying to get the best results, we'll want to move forward in there and not.
So what's the therefore be it resolved? Because it can't, we just said earlier, no, it can't be, we have concerns.
We can't write as a group of 15, 20 people. I mean, I think the gist of it is you list a few add a few whereases from your document and then add some concern. And I'm not on the committee and I haven't seen it, so I can't.
Well, the concern that we have these concerns and it further reinforces that the process should be revisited. That's the therefore, right?
Okay.
This is more reason for this process to be revisited. That's a conclusion for
the whole thing.
And I think the message for it should be revisited is not, is that this is an attractive project financially for developers based on the interest that the RFP received and based on the fact that this well-heeled developer created a new company so he could participate in this. And because of that, we know that there's, as much as the city doesn't want to put any subsidy dollars in it, there's possibly a lot more affordable housing on the table. And we know there's also a better design on the table if you add 10th Avenue.
Well, not just that. The other resolution talks about revisiting the entire area and connecting all the streets through to West Street. It's a much more comprehensive. So that's the whole message we don't want to lose. That's the problem with this.
But you need to tie it into there's more opportunity for.
Right. Well, there is. Well, there's thousands of square feet of city or state-owned land, it's mostly state-owned land that's available that's no longer needed. And that's all the street, all 10th Avenue from 14th Street South is no longer needed because the trucks are all gone from the industrial aspects. And so.
All right.
That's why the process needs to be revisited because the development of this singular little corner of this one parcel disrupts the entire opportunity of utilizing in the best way possible the city and state resources that are available. And that's not money, that's land, which is the scarcest resource that we have in the city.
All right. Do we need to vote on this?
I think we should, then it can be wrapped up into
that resolution.
Yeah, in the resolution.
Okay.
See? Okay, so we're voting on these amendments. Okay, so we have.
They're going to have to be introduced at full board still as amendments.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they'll
Well, the concept is we're introducing a reso that stands as one, right? That's for full consideration, that's been written out, that nobody's doing weird things, right? That nobody can follow and everybody gets bored.
Yeah. I just want to, but it's going to have to still be noted that like the committee voted on one thing and then exec added this, but we're presenting it as a single packet, like a single.
Is it going to be bolded? Like, how are people going to know what was?
You can bold it. I think that's probably because it's black and white.
Okay. Okay.
Put a box around it.
So the motion is to direct the land use committee to amend their resolution?
That will be presented.
To add to the resolution.
Add to the resolution.
To be presented as something that was.
It can always be struck, but it's very complicated to add in the moment, right? So having a.
So better read it as a whole.
And this body is met after this information between the committee meeting and.
Which is the strong argument for doing this.
And we feel that issue is very timely and important that this be wrapped up at the full board meeting so that we can share this with all the electeds incoming.
Or do I need to just call the vote? So we all.
Do I need to make a
I think-
motion? I second the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I can repeat what
Yeah,
I
repeat it.
think, that we
Sure.
are moving
Motion,
to
yeah.
ask, we're moving to ask the Land Use Committee to
Mhm.
add to their resolution regarding Gansevoort Square development for presentation to the full board.
In light of information that came out on Monday, November. Right, I don't need to do that. Yeah, okay, fine.
Information that came out subsequent to their meeting.
Subsequent to the meeting. Okay, great. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, recusals? Right, passes.
Okay.
Is there any additional new business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I don't have a mouse.